Dzogchen Today podcast. Welcome to Dzogchen Today's podcast. This series of What is Dzogchen dives into the foundation of Dzogchen and presents the richness of its tradition, its history, lineage, past, fruition, and much more.
Hi and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Marie-Laure and I am your host today. So in the next 3 episodes, we are going to explore the motivation for taking up the path of Dzogchen, as well as the specific characteristics of this path. And so we will start with the motivation and to talk about it. And I'm very delighted to welcome Damien Brohon.
Hello.
And Mila Khyentse Rinpoche.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not
Fine.
bad.
Fine. Well, thank you for joining us. So let's start briefly with just some description. Mila Khyentse, for the listeners who don't know you yet, you are a trained scholar, consultant, and teacher of Dzogchen. You have been traditionally trained in the Himalayas and in Europe, and you're a lineage holder.
Yes, that's right.
And Damien Brohon, you are an art teacher, artist, and author, and you have also been teaching Buddhism for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And for many years, yes, in French-speaking countries in various settings.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Well, very good. So let's dig into this motivation topic. And to start with, maybe Damien, could you... what do you think might be the motivations today for starting the Dzogchen path or a Dzogchen path?
Mm-hmm. I would say that something that really moves you, because motivation is about being moved, being put into movement toward the truth, toward something really real, you can say. Something very strong that can happen in a life that really check us and
shake us, you mean?
Shaking from the ground, for example.
Yes.
So something quite strong.
Something quite...
An event that
yes.
can really...
Yes, a lot of suffering, a lot of inspiration, a lot of amazement when you look at reality, when you see how everything is changing, or when you are very touched by the beauty of nature, something that wants you make to see what is the ground of reality.
Okay, that moves you profoundly.
Yes, move profoundly, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You during this moment, you consider that you can just stay with your normal, habitual way of seeing things. You see that there is something much deeper, and you feel that maybe Dzogchen is a way to discover completely this dimension of reality. Mm-hmm. You have come on a kind of intuitive feeling that maybe is a way to go deeper completely and into that what you just feel.
Mm-hmm. Then just the surface.
It's just the surface, yes. That will be maybe the first thing that happen in an experience that bring us into this path. And also a sense of curiosity. To want to understand better, deeply, to see that not only in a conceptual way, but by a direct experience. Mm-hmm. And in Dzogchen there is as well teachings that explain, that give explanation, but also a way to direct experience. And all these kind of elements are maybe the door to enter this path.
Mm-hmm. So something that moves you deeply, yes. And something that you just said that is how did you phrase it?
I think it's a research to know you in a deeper way. You just think that you are just, for example, a human being, mm-hmm. But you have the feeling you are not only that. And you want to just start something to discover if, in your deepest ground of being, you are something else. And for sure, you can say that there is quite a lot of people, maybe not everyone, but quite a lot of people who just start practicing Dzogchen in that way. Yes.
So questioning the reality somehow that we're
Of the self, not the reality in itself, but the reality of the self. And usually it's one of the beginning points. It's not all the beginning points, but it's one of the points. And then what you can see, for example, when you teach Dzogchen, you can see nowadays that a lot of people come to try to know themselves more, or just knowing themselves. Because nowadays there is quite a lot of confusion, in the mind. Of course, it's due to some outer circumstances, outer conditions. But what you can see also is an increasing feeling of confusion all around. And a lot of people actually start the path of Dzogchen just trying to figure out what they really are, or they try to find some way to just trying to restructure themselves, trying to clarify
clarity.
Yes, what is what they are, what is the self, as we said, and so they start the path that way. There is also the example, and this is quite recent as well. It's a lot of people who are really insecure and who feel, this insecurity everywhere they are. So there is a strong feeling of anxiousness. And a lot of people start also on the path of Dzogchen, trying to address this strong feeling. Of course, maybe it's not the best way to address that. Maybe we will talk about that later, because great perfection is really radical as a path. But what we see and what we can say about people nowadays who start the path is that they want to stop suffering. They don't know how. They want to also stop being lost. This is actually nowadays the two main reasons. And the reasons you said, you were talking about, Damien, were maybe from a previous generation of Dzogchen practitioners. And actually, I myself, I started the path that way, trying to discover, trying to deepen my knowledge of myself and the reality. But nowadays we are just witnessing that it's sliding slowly, and the past years really more quickly, in a way that no, I just want to get rid of my suffering, or I just want to get rid of my feeling of confusion. And this is really strong nowadays, actually.
And is it a bad motivation to start with?
Well, I think I should say there is no bad motivation. There is nothing that you can call bad motivation. Because according to the Great Perfection view, the motivation you start with is an illusion. For sure. It's not the reality of the self. It's not the reality of the reality itself. And so, as we are confused, as we don't know yet the nature of the reality, all the motivations are just illusion. So all the motivations are okay.
Our starting point.
Yes. But you have to build your motivation along the way, especially in the beginning of the path. You have to meet with what the tradition considers being the right motivation.
So that leads me to the next question, because I was wondering if there is any difference with what motivated Tibetans in the past. So maybe one of you could say something about
Why not?
of the Tibetans in the past.
In the tradition point of view, there is different type of motivation. First one is to get rid of suffering of samsara, which is a cycle of suffering that is endless, that is an endless process of mental anguish, situation of tension, suffering, and so on. And the first motivation is the deep wish to get liberated from that. But that only from the individual point of view, that want to be free. That's the first motivation. That is very deep, because there is a understanding of the nature of reality. But that is also, you can say, limited, because it's only oneself. So there is a second motivation, which is universal, which is a motivation of, if we use the Buddhist term of the Mahayana, the great vehicle, who is great because everyone is invited in it. And in that case, you want to be free from suffering along with all sentient beings. So that's more universal point of view, because you will see that suffering is not only in you, but in every beings. Every sentient being is feeling that suffering. So there is no way you can imagine to free yourself and letting others beyond you. So that's the two first classical Buddhist, you can say, traditional motivation.
And then?
Yeah, I was going to ask. Then, what about the great perfection?
There is what we call in the great perfection the unconventional, the non-conventional motivation, which is the latter, the one you said that you want to reach enlightenment for yourself and all sentient beings, but in a primordial way, because you reach what we call the emptiness of the reality. Your vision reach the true nature of the reality, the true nature of the reality of the self and of the existence of all the reality. And so this qualify what we call the bodhisattva, but not only we can call them the starting bodhisattva, but the mahasattva, the bodhisattva mahasattva, the great bodhisattva, who are focusing the enlightenment for all the sentient beings in a primordial way, because they do not see sentient beings. They see them in a form of emptiness and luminosity. So they see directly, they perceive directly that all the sentient beings are the true primordial nature of the mind. So they are not anymore, because it's the end of the training path for the bodhisattva. They are not anymore focusing their attention
on the beings. towards the beings.
Sentient beings, but towards the true nature of the sentient beings, which is emptiness and luminosity. So this is the unconventional motivation, which is remaining all the time in the vision of the pure and perfect mind. It's what we say in the great perfection. So you are not training to help beings. You are remaining all the time in the natural aspect of the nature of the mind. So your motivation and your action of compassion are completely natural. So we say this is the the natural radiance of the compassion. And we call it, in the great perfection, the universal compassion. So this is the difference between actually the three types of motivation we have in the great perfection.
And it's very different from our perspective
as human beings.
Yes, as human beings, because we have the impression that we need to do something to help.
Yes.
And when we hear you, we understand that there is nothing into brackets to do unless to have the vision that.
Yeah, and this is why we train, actually, because in the great perfection, on the path of the great perfection, we are training to become bodhisattva and to become great bodhisattva. So it's something that you develop step by step. And as you develop this kind of vision, this kind of view, you develop also the motivation that is according to the view. So for us, of course, if we say, okay, we start a path because we are afraid, we are suffering, we don't even think about others who are suffering. Yes, we are far away from that.
It's very narrow.
But it will change. Mm-hmm. Along the way, it will change.
Naturally.
Not
with
naturally.
With the practice.
But
with the practice, naturally it will change.
Yes. And after that, for sure, naturally, we will develop this kind of motivation.
Damien, would you have anything to...
Yes, it's interesting to see that there is 3 motivations that show very clearly that this is a process. This is a process we can go from the point we were mentioning before of what happened to us in our life that give us the motivation to follow something like a spiritual path. And there is in this path this compassionate, skillful means that present a gradation. It's not just black or white. You evolve in your path.
Yes.
And that's very precious for us, especially because in our modern culture, the very fact that the spiritual path exists is not obvious at all. In the traditional context, this is obvious for everyone. But in our world, in our day and time, that's not the case. So that's very good and helpful and welcoming, we can say, to have this gradual aspect.
And nowadays it's quite precious, actually, because everyone is all the time in a hurry. You are in a hurry to reach. If you start a path, you have to reach the liberation in 2 days, which is completely, of course, unattainable, especially in 2 days.
It's a pity.
So it's a pity, for sure, but it's not a reality. And this is why it's also really important, because the path teaches us patience. And if you develop this patience, you develop also a different way to live, a different way to define the reality, to define others, to define your relationship with others. So this patience is really, really, really crucial along the path. And this is exactly what you develop in the beginning, because you try to understand what is this evolution, what is this guy you call bodhisattva, what is this enlightenment guy, what is this enlightenment being. So you try to discover really what the path is. Before, just starting right away the path, you need to know what the path is and, what the path leads to. And this is why you acquire in the beginning one of the main tools you can use on the path, patience. Patience for yourself, patience for other beings, patience for the reality. This is really important nowadays, especially nowadays.
Especially nowadays, where we are very in a hurry.
Sure. Yeah, it's time.
It's time, exactly. That's the perfect time to wrap up. Thank you so much. So, Mila Khyentse, Damien, Brohon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
shedding some light on this topic. And we will discuss a bit more on the next episode, the path in itself, the Dzogchen path. So,
why not?
So stay tuned.
Good.
And we'll meet you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
You can find more episodes on your website, dzogchentoday.org. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast app and share it with your friends. We will be pleased to receive your feedbacks on podcast@dzogchentoday.org.